Let's have a quick conversation about Magento open source. And the question is, should you actually buy it or just ditch it this year? Let's have a conversation about that. So here's a synopsis I want you to pay attention to. So when you think about Magento open source, I want you to think about a platform that allows you to really thrive when you are thinking about having an online presence, okay? So if you're looking for an all-inclusive platform to build and manage your online store, Magento open source is really an excellent option in our view. And basically, it has versatile features and customization capabilities. And the cool thing is it allows you to actually create seamless and successful online shopping experiences. And it doesn't matter the size of your company, okay? You can be a small business, you can be a large enterprise. You can actually use Magento open source to actually exist online. So that's kind of cool. So basically, when you think about Magento open source, we love the fact that you have innovation. The company is actually fixing things, fixing security patches all the time, and they are actually making sure that they are engaging with the Magento community. So that's kind of cool, okay? And so what makes Magento open source open source? That's the question you got to ask, because basically Magento actually is under Adobe. And the question is, why would Adobe actually go philanthropic all of a sudden? Because this is a business. And so the thing is that Magento open source is really a PHP-based e-commerce software currently distributed by Adobe under the open software license 3.0 that developers and businesses can use to build and manage online storefronts. So that's kind of cool. And it was originally called the Magento Community Edition and only became Magento open source in June 2017 when it was actually owned by Permira. The question is that, again, why is Adobe doing it? Well, Adobe is doing this because there is another side to Magento that actually charges them. So they charge for that. For this, they don't charge for it because it's open source, so it's free. But Adobe is actually promoting its other Magento product and hoping that folks will transition from the open source to the more concrete Adobe product. So that's really there is an economic goal behind the whole open source sort of initiative. I want to talk to you about qualities here. So when we think about Magento open source, what kind of qualities should you be thinking about? What are the features? What are the benefits? Well, Magento open source continues to really evolve and enhance its features. I mean, basically, you have a lot of features, a lot of innovation being added every single day. And so nowadays, this open source is a powerful and reliable choice for e-commerce businesses of all sizes. And this is kind of cool. As long as you can code, as long as you can program, that's really the most important element, okay? And also you have, with Magento open source, you have the tools and resources to create, for instance, your own extensions and actually share them with a wider community via the extension marketplace. So that's kind of cool. And what happens here is that this massive library of tools allows users like you and me to freely customize their experience, but also their customers' experience. See, the whole thing is when you think about Magento open source, I want you to think about flexibility. I want you to think about scalability, but most importantly, I want you to think about efficiency. And with that efficiency, you're able to create a certain experience for your customers. You are able to shape, you're able to mold, you're able to actually fashion the way you want your client itinerary, okay? You also have some mobile design capabilities. So Magento open source also provides mobile responsive themes and templates, ensuring that your online store looks and functions flawlessly on handheld devices like smartphones and tablets. And so this mobile optimization is kind of crucial for reaching and engaging with the ever-growing number of mobile shoppers, especially Generation X and Generation Z, okay? That's an important element. What we love about, in terms of qualities, we also love the security features within Magento open source. Basically, though the platform is customizable and flexible, Magento open source incorporates valuable security measures. For instance, data encryption, secure payment gateways, and also user authentication. And regular updates and patches are released to address potential vulnerabilities, ensuring a safe shopping experience for customers and peace of mind for users. So that's kind of cool. I mean, that's really the ethos of Adobe, making sure that Even though Magento open source is actually an open source free sort of experience, they stand behind it. I want to talk to you about the features here. When we think about Magento open source, what kind of features can you expect this year? Well, the cool thing is that you can sell anywhere. You can manage and deliver. You can measure and optimize. And most importantly, you can scale, extend, and support. So this is the quartet that basically Adobe wants to put behind Magento open source. So when the whole thing is when through the open source sort of conduit, Magento wants to make sure that you can create world-class B2B and B2C shopping experiences with rich out-of-the-box features. So you can actually combine this with a global ecosystem of implementation partners, a vast marketplace of extensions, and third-party integrations for unlimited e-commerce customization. So the cool thing here is that you are able to sit against a strong Magento open source community. Okay, you have a lot of developers, you have a lot of e-commerce stores that are taking advantage of this open source sort of capability. So you can sell anywhere. So what does that mean? It just means that you can let your customers shop whatever and whenever and however they want. And with Magento open source, you can easily connect shopping experiences across channels. So that's kind of cool in terms of omni-channel experience, okay, across channels. And you can add new brands and sites. You can expand into new geographies, and you can sell to both businesses and consumers, right? All from one platform. So B2B and B2C experience. I just want to really insist on that. So that's very good. And also another thing is that you are able to. So when we talk about B2C and B2B, I want you to remember that it's not about your geography anymore. Okay, you can be somewhere in Portland, Oregon, and you can actually have a B2B and B2C experience all over the world. In other words, your customers, your business customers can be from, let's say, Nigeria or Australia or Austria for that matter, and you are able through Adobe open source to mold a seamless shopping experience for them. Okay, and you can have this actually, as I said, B2B and B2C. Doesn't matter if those customers are individual customers or businesses. Bottom line is you have the capabilities and the extension architecture within Magento open source to make that happen. So within Magento open source, another important feature is that you can manage and deliver. And so what we love about the manage and deliver is actually the seamless experience that Magento open source allows you to actually instill in your e-commerce operations. So basically, you can personalize end-to-end shopping and purchasing experiences at scale by delivering tailored promotions, seamless omni-channel fulfillment options, and self-service convenience that really result in the end, when you think about it, big time, in higher conversion rates and average order values. That's what you want, right? You want your AOV to actually go up. So your average order value has to go up if you want to actually survive in this ever competitive e-commerce marketplace. So and that goes through what? That goes through your ability to actually instill a certain level of self-service convenience into the whole shopping experience for your B2B and B2C customers. And so that's an important element to think about, especially when you analyze the whole Magento open source ability to mold. I want to insist on that word again, to mold your customers' experiences. Okay, and through Magento open source, you can also measure and optimize. So this is an important element. Okay, so you can make the shopping experience more relevant with the insights and tools that you need to personalize the experience in real time, and with the ability to create customized dashboards and business reporting. You can do it without the help of IT. So that's kind of cool. You don't need to have your programmer or developer to kind of help you out, okay? And this is the cool thing we love. What about scaling, extending, and support? Well, through Magento open source, you actually get the control and flexibility that you need to innovate and scale without sacrificing security. I spoke to you a little earlier about Magento open source's security patches being released all the time. Adobe is strongly behind this initiative, so that's kind of cool. And also, so what happens here is that when we speak about scaling, extending, and support, you have a team of certified global integrators and a wide array of support resources that help you actually reduce technical overhead while driving high-value commerce experiences. And again, I want to insist on the fact that we're speaking about commerce experiences B2B, and B2C. I want to talk about the specs here. So we're still having a conversation about Magento open source, and what are the specs you need to really think about? How do you use Magento open source this year? So if you are unfamiliar with Magento open source, it really makes sense that you might be wondering how it works, right? Well, no explanation will replace working with an expert or discovering it for yourself. Here is a super high, level view of how to get started using the platform. So you have three important steps. So you have installation and setup. So that's an important element to think about. You have customization and design, and you have product management and launch. So when we talk about installation and setup, what you want to do here is that you want to download the latest version of Magento open source from the official website. And you want to choose a hosting provider that meets Magento's system requirements and install the platform on your server. So the platform has to be on your server, okay? Because Magento is not really hosting it for you. I mean, Adobe is not going to host it for you because this is an open source. So you have to actually install the whole thing on your server, and you want to follow the setup wizard, configure database connections, and set up essential store details like currency, language, and tax settings. And it doesn't matter if you are selling domestically or you're selling internationally. You want to really pay attention to this trifecta: the currency, the language, and the tax settings. Because even domestically, you might have to actually abide by sales tax regulations, okay? So that's the first part, installation and setup. Next, you want to think about customization and design. So you want to browse the Magento marketplace, now called the Adobe Commerce Marketplace, for themes and extensions, or choose from the default themes available. You want to customize the design to match your brand's identity, adjust the layouts, fonts, colors, and add your logo. That's an important element if you want to really have a bespoke experience. You want to install and configure necessary extensions to enhance your store's functionality, such as payment gateways, shipping methods, and marketing tools. So that's the second part in terms of the specs, right? The third part is, as I said a little earlier, product management and launch. So the cool thing here is that you can, through product management and launch, you can actually add your products to the catalog. So that's kind of cool, including images, descriptions, and pricing. You can organize products into categories and set up attributes and filters for easy navigation. And you can test your store thoroughly, including the checkout process, to ensure everything functions correctly. And once satisfied, launch your Magento open source powered online store to start selling today. And this is to really find out. It's important to understand that you have to update Magento open source to ensure optimal performance, security, and access to the latest features. Additionally, what you want to do is you want to leverage the robust community support and documentation to troubleshoot issues and make the most of the platform's capabilities. So what are the extras here? So when we think about Magento open source, I think I was telling you a little earlier that Magento open source is actually backed by the power and prominence of Adobe. And so the question is, what is the difference here? When you think about Magento open source versus Adobe Commerce, what should you be thinking about in terms of the difference and also similarities? Well, Magento open source, real fast, is a free open source e-commerce platform for building online stores. So this is really good, right? And Magento actually offers a foundational features such as product management, catalog, browsing, and checkout. So that's actually one part. On the other part, Adobe Commerce is actually a paid version with additional advanced features like advanced marketing tools, customer segmentation, and B2B functionalities. So there is actually some debate regarding the true differences between the two platforms, given actually the rich library of extensions that are available to bring the Magento open source platform to a parity with the Adobe Commerce platform. So basically, this is something to really think about. So it depends on what you want, right? So in general, we have found that regardless of potential parity, enterprise businesses are more attracted to Adobe-backed Adobe Commerce Cloud over the Magento open source alternative. Okay, so now when we think about a Magento open source, you got to have a certain experience, right? You could actually you have to have some developer knowledge, some coding knowledge, right? So, but you can actually hire those skills. You don't have to have them yourself. But the thing is, there's a lot of DIY when you think about open source. That's the way it works. I mean, when you close your eyes and thinking about open source, you have a lot of DIY. Okay. So the thing is that you can, if you have the right skills, you can actually set up your e-commerce store through the open source for free. But remember, things like extensions, things like hosting, you might have to pay for it, right? Or even host things on your own server. Now, as the site grows and you add extensions and customizations, the complexity multiplies and management becomes more labor intensive. Okay, more labor intensive, right? So it's one of those things where you might have to work with a Magento development agency, right, to kind of help you out in terms of managing the sites inside and out. So the big question is, should you go with Magento open source this year? What is really, do we recommend Magento open source? Definitely. We definitely actually recommend Magento open source. As long as you have the right skills, you have the right coding knowledge, you have the right programming knowledge, the right developer knowledge, you should actually try Magento open source. And the cool thing is, Magento open source actually prioritizes security and is built to protect your online store from potential threats. Regular security updates and patches are released by Adobe to address vulnerabilities. And as for scalability, Magento open source is actually known for handling massive and complex product catalogs, high traffic, and multiple storefronts effectively. So that's kind of cool. So, but with the you will need to host it right elsewhere. So, but the cool thing is, with the right hosting environment and platform optimization, Magento open source can actually support your growing business needs while providing excellent performance and user experience. So this is totally fine. It's up to you to really see what works for you, right? The thing is that when you have a Magento open source, you gotta really add a lot of extensions, right? But the good thing is that you can find ready-to-use features from the extension marketplace. So you can customize your online experience and reduce administrative tasks with the Magento, with the Adobe Commerce Marketplace, where thousands of third-party extensions and templates are readily available, right? And you can also make sure that you are joining actually your peer-to-peer network in the Magento Association. I mean, you have millions of people using Magento. You can find your community by letting the association ecosystem provide collaboration, education, and thought leadership. So the cool thing is you are able to talk to folks. You're able to connect with other people. And you can also connect with expert advisors in the community forum, right? You can chat directly with expert developers and access all the helpful resources you need in one portal, complete with a knowledge base, Slack channels, and templates to help you along the way. So what's the bottom line here? Magento open source is a great process, is a great work stream that we recommend that you choose, right? It's free, but it's a lot of DIY. You gotta have the knowledge, you gotta have the capability, the dedication to do things yourself. But if you can, the customization level is really, really superior. So to conclude into this conversation, I spoke to about Magento open source, and I actually give you the synopsis, the qualities, the features, the specs, and finally the conclusion. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.